pronouns he, him. I'm based out of San Francisco here, and I'm a product data operations manager. I joined Niantic two years ago, very much when we started doing large-scale scanning operations. So I come with this background of running scanning for Niantic, and so trying to share these with you all. With me, Isabel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel, pronouns she, her. I'm a newer member here at Niantic, currently helping with data operations, specialty and data annotation, but I have about 50 days now of scanning experience, thanks to Thibault, that I'll be sharing later on in today's presentation. Yvonne or Evan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Evan. I'm a developer support engineer on the 8th Wall side. And I'll pass it to Gilberto.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Gilberto, developer support engineer on Lightship side. And yeah, I'm available for help for answering questions whenever you have them.
Cool, thank you. So this is the team that we're going to work on with this today. So this is generally the path, or like the journey that as a developer, an AR developer, you will take whenever you're building an AR experience using VPS. So of course, from choosing at which locations or creating the locations that you're gonna build your location at, your experience at, scanning, which is basically going to be the main topic of today, the activation part, the remote authoring or the authoring, and then finally, generally, that is accomplished by going at the location and trying your experience in real life, sometimes more than once. So, so this is basically the general journey that we expect our developers to follow, and today, we're going to focus more specifically on the tools and on the techniques that you're going to use. So in terms of tool set, you should already be familiar with our geospatial browser, which is part of both 8th Wall and Lightship. That is this map, which is basically for you to browse the Niantic map, see some of our 20 million locations that we have. If those are not sufficient for you, you can also create your own locations that ultimately get available for you and for the rest of the communities to build your AR experience at. So super handy tool. It's just a web app, so it can be accessed from any browser. And it should be very much a similar experience between 8th Wall and Lightship. So that is definitely one of the tools that we are investing in and that you guys should be already familiar with. The other one, which is basically the application, is our scanning app. So currently it's the Wayfarer app. It's so if you scan this QR code, normally that should redirect you to our either our iOS or Android version of the Wayfarer app. That will be the main app for gathering the scans and creating the scans that we will then submit to our servers to contribute to the map. So it's not only a scanning app, it has also similar features as the geospatial browser in a way that you can browse the different locations. You can also create your own location, and the extra tool that you have is to actually be able to edit some locations or suggest edits so that those are reflected to the Niantic maps, or generally, improving the title, improving the description of the location, and possibly as well adding more pictures that might fit better your use case. So the Wayfarer app is actually, so I'm just going to show you a few screens. So of course you have the Niantic signs in for developers, so Lightship and 8th Wall, the map that we just mentioned, a logbook, which is where you aggregate all the contribution that you do to the map. So normally mainly the scans, and of course this you can see your profile and review it. So those are the different tools. And so where does how to use those tools. So generally there's 4 steps when it comes to scanning. So the first one will be that would be next slide, please, Pablo. So the first step is to either select or create the new location. And I'm just waiting for the next step the next slide to move. There you go. So to select your location or create it, so you can do it either from the WebAR app or the geospatial browser. Essentially, as soon as you have a location or either created or selected, you can add scans to it using the WebAR. So the WebAR app is the app that you use to scan. You'll upload all those scans, and then after a certain amount of time that we're going to review, you'll be able to activate or reactivate the location. That would then mean that the location is VPS activated and ready for you to build your AR experience with. So now we're just going to go through the very first step, which is how to select your location. So in the geospatial browser, as we were showing in the GIF or the video earlier, so you can click on any of those locations, or here click on create public location. That would make it available, and automatically an ID is generated with this location. So it's we call it a POI ID, and this POI ID will basically be the information that we tie all your scans with. And that's definitely the first step. So you can do it from here, and in the WebAR app, you can also do it from there. So either you search, you look for the location, or you click on the little icon here on the right hand side that is that allows you to create this new location. In a similar manner here, you can do it from either way. The updates are reflected immediately in the Niantic map in the backend. The POI ID is generated, and that basically allows you to create and scan the location right away. You can also look in either system, you can look for all the locations that are already VPS activated, which means that normally you don't need to scan, or you could scan to, for example, improve the location, make it more diverse, or have more chances of localization later on using VPS. So this is the options of using this sort of VPS feature. It's also available on the geospatial browser through a similar filtering system here. So now that, assuming that you have selected your location or created it, the next step for you is to actually go there and scan. So this is where I'm handing to Isabel, who is going to take us through what are the steps or what are techniques and suggestions on when it comes to scanning locations.
Right, awesome. Thank you so much, Thibault. All right, so before going out and scanning, we do recommend a couple of preparation steps here. First, check the weather. Maybe you're not a fan of being out in the rain, but that said, rain is actually okay to scan in. Also choose your device. Though LiDAR is preferred and available in iPhone 12 Pros and beyond, it's definitely not required. If you do happen to use a device that is lacking in LiDAR, this is taken care of in the back end. After choosing your device, ensure it is charged, maybe pack an external battery, particularly if you are going to be doing a lot of scanning. Planning your route. For my folks in LA, I think you know what I mean when I say you probably don't want to be caught in the LA parking lot, as I call it. Take that into consideration when you go out and scan. And then kind of driving home the point of, remember to create the location GSB or verify that it at least exists. All right, now let's say you get to your location, you're ready to scan. How do you do that? So the first thing you'll want to do is find that location on the map using the WebAR app, selecting the location card, as we call it, as you can see here in that middle screenshot, and then clicking on the scan button. Now, I do want to call out, there is more than one scan button, but this is the recommended scan button. Paula, if we can go to the next slide, I can tell you a little bit more about where this other scan button is. All right, so as you can see in this right-hand screenshot, there is a general scan button. If you do happen to click that, complete a scan, no worries. You can choose a location to align with after the scan, but it's just easy for, I'll say, the experience of using the WebAR app to select the scan button from the location card. All right, so let's say you've hit that scan button. What happens next? So what you'll see is your device will transition into scanning mode. You'll click the white circle to start the scan. Each scan will need at least 20 seconds, but we'll note that we are hoping for 1 minute per scan. After you're done scanning, you'll click the stop button in the bottom middle, and from there, your device will process the mesh, and the WebAR app will let you know how you did. You can exit out of the scan at any time by tapping the X in the upper left-hand corner. I do want to say that though the WebAR app does provide a scan quality classifier, don't be discouraged if it's not good quality. It still might be a good scan. So let's go on to the next slide. So when you're scanning, definitely walk at a slow, natural pace. Allow your device to take in the surroundings, if you will. The location should always be the focal point. You'll want to introduce some variation into the scan, between distances, angles, ensuring that each minute is different, and then move the device with you like a crab walk. And just a reminder again, one scan is 1 minute. All right, next slide, please. Now you might be wondering, how am I going to capture this POI? Well, we do have a couple of recommendations as to how to navigate around it. The circular movement, where you can use concentric circles, which will naturally vary how close you are to that POI. The spiral movement, where you're walking out into circular movement from that POI. And then our highly recommended movement, the flower movement, which can be adjusted along with these other movements based on the kind of POI it is. If you can go to the next slide, Pablo, we do have some visuals as to how this will look like. So for instance, if you have a flat object that you're scanning, you'll want to move alongside of it. If you're doing a corner, you'll probably not collect a 360, but more of a 270 degree. And then for smaller objects, you'll adjust accordingly. All right, so just remember to scan again from, actually, let's go ahead and go right into these. Thank you, Pablo. Just remember to, again, scan, 0 to 10 meters away from a location, or if you use feet like me, 0 to 35 feet, and scan from as many different angles as possible. All right, so here in this slide, we do have a couple of examples of our operator collecting these scans. You'll notice here our operator is varying height, angle, distance. And in fact, you'll see that, well, actually these examples are captures done on different days, trying to take into consideration the variability of the weather specific to this POI. It is good to have different captures done at different times of day, again, to capture different shadows, different situations, what have you. You'll notice that in these two scans, there are very similar weather, but different shadows.
Technique is the same. You see one thing that people tend not to do by default is like varying the height of the phone. That brings a bit more different perspectives, especially when you have users with different heights. So that sort of like mimics the different position the other or another users could have with their phone, and that also brings a bit more coverage. So yeah, really trying to be as 360 as possible. And one other thing is that here, fortunately, it's not too busy, but whenever possible, trying to prevent moving objects to be in the frame. Things like large cars, buses, or like just crowds of people moving around. So although our algorithm is like pretty good at identifying and like removing those moving objects afterwards so that they don't show up in the mesh, it's better to not capture it in the first place. So always be mindful of your surroundings here, understand like the crowd movements, things like this. Depending on the locations, as Isabel was saying, like planning your routes before, so that perhaps you're going to activate or scan the locations that might have more people at days of the day, times of the day that have a bit less traffic. So yeah, this is a good example of how to scan a waste spot. And this one is sort of like the perfect waste spot because it's a statue. But
And as Thibault was mentioning, there are definitely things we want to avoid capturing in these scans. Your fingers, definitely one of them. Please avoid the inclination, but if you do happen to, you're not alone. If you do happen to capture people, we do have algorithms that anonymize the scans, but this is generally a good practice in terms of social awkwardness and etiquette, if you will. And as Thibault was mentioning, definitely keep in mind safety and movement of crowds. We do also recommend avoiding scanning when the location is too far away or too close. If you do happen to also point your phone at a very bright or reflective object, such as the sun, windows with glare, this can throw off the scan along with moving too fast or not moving at all. We also recommend avoiding uploading any scans that look incomplete or not representative. And then, of course, avoiding heavy rain and snow while recording. But that said, if you do happen to go to an area that has had heavy rain or snow, this can actually be a great thing to scan as it does introduce some variability into the scans. All right, and last but not least, after you've completed your hard work of scanning, don't forget to upload. Just to give a ballpark, a 5-minute scan can weigh about 250 megabytes. And as a result, we do recommend for efficient data usage to upload on Wi-Fi after all of your planned scans are completed. After you do upload your scan, note that the processing time for the scan to appear in the location card, either in GSB or on the Wayfair app, is about 2 hours after upload. And with that being said, I'll hand it back over to Thibault. We'll talk a little bit more about VPS activation.
great. So what happens after? So you have the scans that were uploaded. You've waited the time for them to reflect. Normally, you have those different possible statuses that you have at a given location. So either you're not ready for activation, which means you have less than 10 scans. If you have those 10 scans that are uploaded, we have this minimum requirement that is a way to sort of force the diversity of the scans gathered at a single location, that the minimum time difference between those two are of 5 hours. That's absolute number, like hour of the day. So even if it's two, like they were gathered on like 2 different days, but both of them were done at noon, that does not count as like 5 hour difference. So it's really, for example, you need to have some scan, at least one scan done at, let's say, 10 a.m. and one scan done at 3 p.m. That will ensure that you have at least 2 different scans at 2 different times of the day. So it's a way for us to force the time difference. And so once you have those two combined, so 10 scans and the variability in time of the day, then your location is ready for activation. So the other part is that once it's activated, you can even reactivate. We'll talk a bit more about like why would you want to reactivate. But for reactivation, you have the need for submitting 5 additional scans after the last time it was activated. So yeah, if we move on to the next slide, this is how you would do for activation or reactivation. So in the geospatial browser, you would open the card, and at the bottom you have this activate reactivate button. So in this case, in the example here, we're showing the location doesn't have enough scans to reactivate. So that's why the button is being grayed out. Would it have enough, you'd be able to click here, reactivate, and that sends the request to our backend that we would then take into account for processing. The next slide shows to do the same thing from the Wayfair app. So basically, you open the location card, you scroll down to the VPS section of the card, and this is where you have the activate or reactivate button. You can also see, it's quite handy here, you can see the little histogram that shows the distribution of the scans per time of the day. And that's what I was mentioning earlier, is that the diversity, it kind of shows you how diverse or how spread around the day those scans are, and why you need to have at least a 5-hour difference between two of those. So this is a simple way to check it out. In case you have additional scans that are submitted and that have not been used for activation, those scans, I think, will show up as a sort of additional or stacked bar on top of them. So showing you that you could that those scans have been taken into account, they just haven't been used for the next activation. Yeah, so that's how you would do for activating or reactivating. As for like what to expect from there. So as Isabel mentioned, the average time for scan processing is about 2 hours. So that's basically the moment from the moment it's left or it was uploaded from your device to the moment it hit our server. And then it's gone through our scan processing pipeline, which encompasses several steps, including the anonymization of the scan, which means that all the the faces, the license plates are being scraped out of the scan, along from the metadata extractions that we have, the association with your waste, with the location, etc. So all of that you can expect it to take about 2 hours. For the activation or reactivation, generally the average processing time. So this is what we call in the backend, it's our mapping process. It takes about 4 hours. So it's selecting our most recent scans and the most recent scan that have been submitted and including them to building the map. This takes about 4 hours from activation request to activation being complete, assuming that the activation works well. There are some cases where activation can fail, and so it's possible to reach out for us for any help in this case, because we're here to help with anything that's related to activation issues, and it can happen, and we are definitely here to help. So yeah, this is for what to expect in terms of timeline once location is activated. So what happens after that is that luckily your activation has been your location is active. You have a beautiful mesh that has been built for the location, and then from there on you are able to retrieve it, likely include it into your AR experience authoring, and from there on you'll be able to basically make your magic happen. This is where you're retrieving the mesh. I guess here you're importing it into either cloud editor and perhaps doing a bit of magic in Blender or Unity, and then building. In this case, it's a A4 AR experience that allows you to localize and then add some more magic to it. So yeah, that's generally the steps going after the activation. Yeah, that's basically about it. Pablo, you want to take over from here?
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, Isabel and Thibault, for all of the great information. We got a couple of questions during that. I know we had an anonymous participant talk a little bit about the ARDK 3.4 updates. Gilberto, thank you for answering that. But then we have two more questions. One is actually three questions within it, but would love to see if Kyle, if you're still around, if you'd like to ask your question directly.
You can see me, you can't hear me.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of scans and had a few technical issues that brought up to Pablo. I'm not going to go through that specifically, but I wanted to just understand the technique that you were mentioning in terms of the flower structure. So you're saying that flower structure should be 1 minute for each leaf, right? Is that kind of?
Not necessarily, especially if you, well, I guess it will depend on the geometry of the waste spot, but generally in 1 minute you are able to do a bit more than just one leaf of the flower. Assuming you're walking at a slow pace, pointing your camera and like going from this 10-meter, getting closer and then back out. So basically you're going out. I guess within 1 minute you're able to do about 1 or 2 petals. Let's call it this, and that should basically I would be surprised if by walking at a slow natural pace you take just 1 minute to do 1 petal.
Okay, but but what I'm saying is also you wouldn't do the scan of all the petals depending upon the size in a single scan. You would try and get the minute moving back and forth, and then move on to your, your planned walk around the particular item that you're working on. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can combine. So basically, when we're sending surveyors on locations, they would submit to us a 5-minute scan, and during this 5-minute scan, they would use a combination of the different patterns that we would do. And so basically, when you submit the scan to us, we automatically split it in segments of 1 minute, and so each minute counts for 1 scan. So even though your one single scan session is 5 minutes, when it's uploaded on our backend, we consider it 5 different 1-minute scans. So yeah, you can you could do longer, like a 3-minute scan using the flower pattern, then stop, then try again and do another pattern. So that wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, not at all.
Okay, I did run into one issue using a waste spot that had already been scanned. And when I went in to use it and I opened it up in Blender, it wasn't in the middle of the grid. It was actually about, 3 meters off center. So, I had to keep on going out there and trying to build there. And I ended up just going to use a different waste spot. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done to bring it back into the center of the grid.
That's a good question. I've had a similar experience where the default anchor or like the origin was not aligned with the actual location. So, but that was a couple of years ago. So I had to manually basically put an offset, which was a bit, not great because you need to check the offset directly at the location, so it's not good. I don't know, Evan or Gilberto, if you experienced that or how you'd suggest that to be fixed. I'm not sure if we're able to remote author that.
So first off, that's what we call like an edge case. It shouldn't happen. If you see this happening, report it, give us a ticket. We can, as Thibault said, we can manually change it. But as a scan, like if you scan it and you see that, you shouldn't. You should report that.
Yeah, it makes work a little tougher in Blender. And then I did a bunch of scans, just trying to, probably over a month, I scanned 6 locations with doing about 50 scans. And I noticed occasionally when I would go back to do additional scan in a location that the waypoint or wayspot that I had created did not show up on the map anymore. And I don't know if you pull things off of there just because you feel like they shouldn't be scan points.
That's a good point. Normally, locations, especially when they're submitted by developers, they should be sort of like static or like not modifiable. This is typically something. So first, when it's not there, it's likely that you don't see it, but it's still in the background. So in case these situations happen, please report it to us. We can like restore them or like just make sure that they're visible to you. Because it's a community map, sometimes users of our games or other developers, they can submit modification requests to a location. And so this can impact, for example, the exact location, the title, the description of it. We try to, especially when they are built for AR experiences, they are not visible in the games. So all our players should like not be concerned and not see it. So basically, you're kind of safe, but it's not impossible that since they're in the Niantic map that other people see it. I think we're bringing some features around that where to be able for a developer to have sort of locations that cannot be seen or modified or by anyone else but them. I know this is something we're working on, but that's part of like having it in the global map, so that everyone can see and interact with it. But if it happens or if it happened, Kyle, please do report it to us. We have all the tools to like restore it, bring it back, especially if you have scans associated to it. That's a lot of work that we definitely don't want you to lose. So, but normally make sure that you can be assured that we have all the data still, so we should be able to restore it.
Okay, I did run into that also. I did a bunch of scans, probably 36 in one day across hours. And when I went in, they hadn't registered with the majority of the locations I had done. So would that be because I scanned them too soon, or do they just disappear and they're not counted at all?
That's we'd have to look into it. The recommendation that Isabel did, which is when you go at a location using the WebAR app, you select the card and then you start scanning. That sort of forces the POI ID to be attached with the scan in your device. So basically, no matter when or how you upload it, after the backend is able to reconcile, oh, this ID is for this guy, so let me reattach it. If you hadn't done it, and perhaps you use the other option where you don't necessarily need to attach a wayspot, or it's only at the end and it's something you can skip, that also could be an issue with the app itself. So please report it as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for that. And great questions there, Kyle. We have a couple of questions from, I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, Shakar. Would you like to also unmute?
Yeah, thanks. So I have a couple of questions. My first question is about VPS support across various regions. Are there any limitations on other regions around the world except the US or Western Europe?
I don't think we have right now. It seems like we've activated locations in I think every continent now. And apart from where we have perhaps some restrictions in China because they don't allow API calls from Google. This is I think this might be one of the only things, but perhaps Gilberto, you can confirm.
I was just gonna say, like, mainland China is definitely one of those. We've seen it happen in other countries, but I don't think we have a list. This is a good request though, and it's something that we've been like trying to get. But I think what Thibault says, it makes sense. Like, as long, kind of a rule of thumb is like if Google is allowed, we basically are allowed. There are gonna be some exceptions, so I think it's good to actually request this.
Okay. Thanks for that. And my second question is about indoors, more specifically about public spaces like museums. Let's say if I have a customer, which is a museum, a public museum, is it will I be able to have a VPS scan in those museums?
Yeah, we've done it in the past, and we already have some locations which are indoor, in as you say, in malls or public spaces or yeah, the other museums. So it's possible to have it there. Museum, they tend to already have a lot of their especially permanent collection already you know, declared as a location in our Niantic map. So I would just recommend to check if it's not a duplicate. If not, you can definitely create it. We've had that done for I think a museum in Vienna, although I'm not sure if they were indoor, but be them indoor or outdoor, it shouldn't be a problem for you.
Okay, thank you about that. And
I'd
my
like
last
to-
question is,
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'd like to add just a little bit. It is doable. It is not the default. So you might have to reach out if you want to have that in. As default, we will reject scans from private areas. Whatever we like, the team will kind of see if it seems like it's indoors. It usually by default will get rejected. So if you are planning on doing something indoors, do reach out. It is possible. It's not like you need like extra permissions or anything. It's just we don't want to like you getting filtered out, you know? So yeah.
Thanks. And my last question about, do you have information about, when one of the, when I'm talking with customers, one of the questions is about accuracy, precision, recall of VPS scans. I mean, of course, after, let's say I've set up the scan and it's public, but then comes the end user with their mobile phone and they and they scan the point of interest in order to see the experience. And can you share a little bit of information about the precision and recall? Because it's one of the concerns that when I talk with potential customers is how well would it work in matters of accuracy?
Gilberto, even you want to take a stab at this one?
I just want to clarify when you say accuracy, do you mean because we have like there's accuracy in like once you're localized, I place this object, like how accurate it's gonna be, and that is just centimeters. So it's like 3 to 5 centimeters accurate. But if you mean more like I created this point of interest and now I'm localizing towards it, that I don't have at the top of my head. But it's a little bit more complicated than just like accuracy, right? It's more like how long does it take me to like localize and make sure that I'm there. So I just wanted to make sure which one you meant.
The localization. I mean, the accuracy of the actual localization. When I want to do the localization, and, and so how well does it recognize the environment? Not the first option, which is how accurate is the placement of the object compared to, let's say, the anchors or the point cloud. So if you have information about the accuracy of the localization itself?
I don't have it at the top of my head. I think if you can just ask it on like one of our support channels, I can give you more precise information. It's just I don't have it right now.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering if if it's 98, 97, 99, then it's one area. But if it's around the 80s, so I need to set expectation with my customers, knowing that one in every 5 scans, I would need some fallback, like a QR code, just for that.
Oh, no, so you shouldn't. It should be pretty easy to like localize. It does depend on things like the quality of the scans or how many of them, and like so that's where like the time of day comes in, but it should be pretty simple. Again, I want to give you numbers, I just don't know them on the top of my head.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great questions. Awesome. We have a comment from David Bennett, but I think it's worth maybe noting if there's some potential solutions for this. They're pretty much pointing to the fact that they tried to scan a sign that was identical on two sides. And when you looked at it from the south and the north, there was some difficulty in aligning the scan data. Do you all have any recommendations for how to go about solving for that?
Yeah, so it's anything that has symmetry in it, right? So that's something that's so there are some locations that are pretty bad candidates for VPS. Things that are that have a lot of symmetry axis, or even complete symmetry, like around like a sphere, for example. A sphere is especially like a uniform sphere is pretty bad. So one of the recommendation here is that when you're scanning, this is where you can not only focus on the subject and like capture some of the surrounding that will sort of add additional anchors to the location, so that when you're trying to localize, the system is the map is able to check from that other part of the location. Yeah. And normally, if you have very different backgrounds, which means like from one side of the sign you have perhaps, I don't know, a skyline, and on the other side of the sign you have a forest or like a park or some trees. Normally, the symmetry you should be able to break down the symmetry with that a good inclusion of the background. Yeah, but generally when you have a lot of like symmetry axes or like complete symmetry in there, the location is not a great candidate for VPS experience. Does that answer your question, David?
Oh yes, thanks very much.
Awesome. Great. Thank you all. We have a question from Imam. I see that you're still in the Zoom. Would you like to unmute and ask it yourself? Looks like no. Alrighty. So they mentioned that they did. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's literally that I write there. So when I scanning a white spot, it's a little bit surrounded with a lot of leaves and organic pattern. And when I upload it, it's come out the mesh is a bit duplicated or double. Like there's offset. There's offset between the mesh, and how is there a tips how to avoid this? But I'm not sure which pattern that I used to scan this mesh. It might be the wrong technique, but I just want to know, is there a better tips to doing this? I think that's it.
Let me try to rephrase what the issue is. So basically, you provided several types of scans, and including one that had like leaves or organic pattern on it. And when it was activated in the mesh, you could see there was some sort of offset between the two parts of the mesh, where, for example, the plane should have been only one, and you would see two planes on top of each other, for example.
Yes, I think yes.
Okay. So in those cases, so this is where we want. I mean, it's good to have this diversity of like at different times of the year, or a different time of the day, etc., so that we have a good distribution of the different patterns that the location can have. One thing, so I would recommend you can reactivate the location here. So submitting more scans, or reaching out to us so that we can like force a reactivation. And when we do, we have a way to sort of like disable certain scans that we can see or can suppose that they are creating too much noise here. So we have a way to do it. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. Tell us which location you have the issue at, and like we can have a look at the location and do this sort of like filtering out of which scans to use for the activation and which not to. So yeah, we have this option in the backend. So I think there would be something, but perhaps here additional scans and a reactivation might also do the work. And again, if you're doing a reactivation, remember you need 5 new scans, so 5 1-minute scans that are submitted after the last reactivation time, the last activation time.
Sure, thank you. About the organic pattern about the leaf, is it have the effect about the output of the scan, or it doesn't matter?
I guess we'd have to check out the location and how important or how much noise that could have happened, especially like if the leaves are hiding some anchoring features. This is where it could be tricky for the system to know where it is. So I better check out the location together, and we can identify where to go on from there. But generally, it's great to capture at fall, and then when there's no leaves, and when there's snow, so that when the map is created, it's a combination of all of that. So when one user comes to try your experience at the location, no matter what the setup they have that they are getting, we have in the backend this reference that is as close as what they're currently experiencing. So it's really not bad to have it.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Awesome. We have time for one more question. We have one in the Q&A from Mark as well. Would you like to unmute and ask?
Sure, thanks. So is VPS suitable for residential areas? Say, for example, I want to create an AR experience in my neighborhood or near my home, or even in my home.
I can take that. So there's 2 things there. So for like quick answer is no, not for residential, definitely. The problem there is just the safety, like the security of the data, right? So the scans would be public, and so if you could like basically dox yourself, then we don't want that. We want to like stay away from all that, right? There are things that you can do. So if it's just like if you just want to make your your own app for your family to see, you can use test scans. We won't guarantee they work for production level, but if it's just like your app that you want to do for yourself, go ahead. But yeah. And then I saw the second part of that. Well, actually, you might as well ask it. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
A completely separate question is there provision within this system to accommodate temporary installations, ones that might not have permanent, things?
Yeah.
Like I want to go to Burning Man and, create an experience for that, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes back to a previous question of like on museums and stuff like that are like kind of technically public, but not really. Those are the kind of things that you can reach out to us and we can help with. Like it's a doable thing for sure. We've done this sort of thing in the past for like Coachella, where we set up things just for the event.
Okay.
So it is doable. You just kind of have to reach out to us, and then we can like figure that out.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So I think we have a quick one that we can answer in the chat from Luis. I think Thibault and Isabel, you can probably take that one.
So where can you download the app? So we had this the QR code earlier in the presentation. So that's the way I think to do. You can normally, if you have created a location, there you go. If you have created the location and you're at the scanning step in the interface, we're actually showing you the same QR code to go there. Is it possible to scan using a drone? and upload the photos and video later. So right now, it's like scans that are or videos that are created outside of the scanning framework of our applications, they won't be compatible with our mapping pipeline. So not really. That being said, we are doing it quite often with our research team to use scanning like drone footages to contribute to especially large scans, but it's not something that's in production and available for users yet. Can you use scans for commercial purposes? I guess this one is like as long as you are a Lightship and a full customer, that's the main purposes of it, I guess. For you to be able to create your experiences, sell it to your to the agencies that you're working with or directly with your customers. So definitely interesting. And for example, export and sell on OpenSea or SMT or similar. So this is, I guess, OpenSea or SMT. This is more for the mesh, right? Like using it to generate the mesh. I'm not really sure for that actually. What's the term of services if you're just not selling the experience, but you're just selling the output from our mapping pipeline? If that's what you mean, Luis.
Awesome. Yep. Okay. Already downloaded Tesla. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, thank you all so much for joining. We're ending right at 12 p.m. PT.